Pelicans trade for CJ McCollum. Big news ahead of the NBA's trade deadline. Let's break down what this deal means for New Orleans this season and next season as well, because there's implications there in an emergency episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to an emergency episode of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, here with y'all with an emergency episode, the Pelicans trade for CJ McCollum. I'm going to be honest, I don't have some of the specifics on this because I'm recording this Monday night. I had heard Monday afternoon that basically a trade was agreed upon. And really, the details don't matter as much for the big picture, big takeaways. The big deal, big part of this is CJ McCollum is coming to New Orleans to help them push for the play-in tournament and maybe a higher seed this year, and to be a partner to Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and whoever else they have, Herb Jones, Jonas Valanciunas, next year. So let's break it down, right? We don't need to, again, know what's going out for New Orleans. The big part about this right now is CJ McCollum coming in to the New Orleans Pelicans. And today's emergency episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So the Pelicans want to push for a playoff spot. They're in 10th as I'm recording this right now, but it's still a bit of a tenuous position. This is something that could slip away. I think you can remove now the Portland Trailblazers in the running for that 10th spot as they kind of try to regroup, reset, whatever it is that, that they're trying to accomplish this year. But you also have teams like the Sacramento Kings who are going to be active at the trade deadline. You have the San Antonio Spurs, the Popovich team, right? They're going to be in contention and not giving up. So there's still other teams fighting with New Orleans, but by moving for CJ McCollum, it basically puts them in the driver's seat for that 10th spot. Because what's been ailing New Orleans this season predominantly is offense. That's what's been hurting them. They're 23rd in the league. Now, they're significantly better when Brandon Ingram is out there. They play 500 basketball essentially when he is out there. But the problem is when he sits, sometimes the offense really falls off. If he's injured and he's been in and out of the lineup this season, you need someone else that can go out and get a bucket. And that is something that CJ McCollum absolutely can go and do and has proven in his career. 20.5 points per game this season. He's also making over 3 threes per game, shooting 38.4%. He gives you a couple rebounds in 4 per game and assists as well at 4.5. This is a guy that can move the rock, but most importantly, go and get you that score in desperate times. Look, he's been in the league 8 years, 6 years, 7 years. He's averaged over 20 points per game. The dude can score. And for a team that is struggling on offense, bringing a guy in like that is absolutely a move you make if he is on the table. There's a little bit of concern about him, right? His age. He's over 30 years old. He makes a whole lot of money. But that money is important because he's under team control. You have him under contract next season at $33 million, and after that at basically $36 million. There's no worry about him bolting in a year or so. At the end of the season, he's not a rental. He's also a long-term piece. So he's going to help New Orleans in the short term. He's going to give them a boost on their offense, and you expect that 23rd ranking to kind of rocket up. That is the area that New Orleans has really struggled in. And more importantly with him, and this is the number that the Pelicans went out and got him for, as my basketball dash reference page is loading really slowly. It's the shooting, right? It's that 38.4% that I just mentioned, but there's another number, and this is just as important. And that number right here is 65.8%. 65.8%. That is the percentage of 3-point shots that CJ McCollum makes and is assisted on. So of his 3-point makes, 65.8 have an assist coming to him. That basically means that 34% of his 3-point makes are unassisted. That is something that Pelicans lack. They don't have any sort of off the bounce, off the dribble, pull-up shooter like that on this team. In fact, this team struggles shooting the 3-ball. They're 26th in the league in terms of 3-point percentage at 33%. That's not going to get it done. There have been multiple games where they shoot under 20% in the month of January alone. By adding CJ McCollum, you add a significant shooter to this roster that's going to give you some instant offense that he can create. His 2-point field goals, rarely assisted upon. He's a guy that can go out and create offense himself, can create his own shot. The Pelicans do not, outside of Brandon Ingram, have anyone even remotely capable of that. The best player on the Pelicans in terms of unassisted 3-point shots, it's Devontae Graham at 25%. That's a 10% difference. CJ McCollum is, in a sense, because of that, a missing piece for this team and what they're looking to do. And they're looking to get into the playoffs. It's really that simple. They're in the 10th spot now, but I think they're feeling they can push. Now you've added an elite scorer to your squad. You have Brandon Ingram, who's healthy and playing well. He just won Western Conference Player of the Week. You have Herb Jones, who's growing. You have Devontae Graham, who at times can be a really good shooter. Jonas Valanciunas can really handle your offense down low. New Orleans is probably not just looking at the 10th spot. They're looking at 8 or 9, and to make their chances of getting into the playoffs through the play-in tournament a little bit easier. They're going to be running out of time. Depending on when you listen to this, it's 28 games or 29 games remaining. And that's to make up potentially 3.5, 4.5, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. I don't know if that's necessarily what they're going to be able to do, but the odds look better today than they did before. And I think that's a big part of why they wanted to make this move and swing this trade for CJ McCollum, a guy they had been linked to for a while, and a guy that just made sense. There's a reason all New Orleans media was around this. He was available, and he fits what the Pelicans are looking to try and do, and a big, big need for him. Again, there are some concerns, injury concerns this season and in the past, his age, but that elite shooting, that's something that he should be able to maintain for at least a couple of years, and you're going to need that when Zion Williamson is healthy and playing for you. Let's talk about that coming up here next in the next segment in today's emergency episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's emergency episode of Locked On Pelicans is also brought to you by TurboTax. People think unusual circumstances mean complicated taxes, but for TurboTax Live experts, that's what makes things interesting. We all have unique lives, whether you invested in crypto for the first time this year, own an up-and-coming small business, I don't know, host a podcast as well. Luckily, TurboTax Live has experts who can answer your tax questions, walk you through the whole process, or do your taxes for you from start to finish. They can help get you every deduction you deserve, no matter your unique situation. And you can always talk to a TurboTax Live expert through your phone or computer without even leaving your house. The TurboTax Live experts are here to help you however you need. And if you need an extra hand your taxes off to them, and they're going to do it all for you. To TurboTax Live experts, an interesting life can mean an even greater refund. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. You do your thing. They've got your taxes. Into it, TurboTax Live. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is also brought to you by BetOnline.net. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football is in the big game, we've got NBA games every single night. You want to get in on all of the props, all of the action, you can do it over at BetOnline, because they remain the number one best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, news, and any lines that you could want. And it's not just football and basketball, right? They've got college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, along with live real-time updates of current games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available for the 2022 season. Bet online, where the game starts. All right, thank you for listening to Locked On Pelicans here. The quick, instant reaction, like literally, I'm posting this. As soon as I see the alert, I'm going to try and get this out, hence why I recorded it ahead of time. But I knew this was coming. I talked to some people within the team. I actually talked to someone within the Blazers as well to kind of get that this deal was done. So while I don't have the specifics for you right now, we'll be talking about it over at Locked On Pelicans. But the big part of this for the Pelicans, the big takeaway, is CJ McCollum. He's going to help them this year as they push not just him to be 10th, but maybe 9th, 8th in the Western Conference. They need some offense. He can definitely provide that. But as I mentioned before, his contract runs beyond this year. The Pelicans are also thinking long-term here, as they should, right? They've got to be thinking about years in the future when it comes to Zion Williamson. And though he's yet to play a game this season, this is a guy that's going to mesh well with him very, very easily. Look, Zion, we know what he can do down low. He's a force of nature. We've seen the double and the triple teams that get thrown at him. You need spacers. You need guys that can make opponents pay. I have said for the past 2 years now, if you've been listening to Locked On Pelicans, I don't know if there's a man alive that will actually space the court for Zion Williamson. He's such an elite scorer inside. You need a three-point shooter to shoot the equivalent of 52% for what he shoots at the rim. No one's doing that over the course of a year. So if an opposing coach has the chance to double or triple Zion versus cover someone out on the three-point line, they're going to double and triple Zion and try and get, a guy out there to run him off the line, certainly. But they'll leave that guy open if it comes to making sure Zion doesn't score in the paint. So you don't need shooters to space the court for Zion because it's not going to happen. You need shooters to make teams pay when they do double or triple Zion Williamson. CJ McCollum, yeah, he's that dude. We know what he's capable of doing. We've seen it his whole career. He's an excellent three-point shooter. You need a guy that's going to be able to sink those shots when he's out there alongside Zion Williamson. For his career, let me pull the numbers here. 3,272 three-point attempts when I'm recording this. 39.6%. 40% from three. That's a large enough sample size to trust this guy to knock down shots when Zion Williamson is out there on the court and he kicks it out to him, whether that's above the break or in the corner. And then if you are looking for a guy to try and create a little bit of space for Zion, it's going to be a person who can just have the ball in his hands and pull up and shoot. You can't, if he's bringing the ball up the court, whether it's in transition or half-court opportunities, right? You can't stay off of him if he's got the ball in his hand. He might shoot it. You sag off. You try and hedge down low a little bit to guard Zion. He's just going to pull up and shoot. And he's going to make it because that's what this guy does. That's his elite skill in the NBA. So while he's not going to actively space the court for Zion when Zion has the ball in his hands, he's going to create some space for Zion to cut and to move when he has the ball in his hands, when CJ has the ball in his hands. That's a really important thing. Look at how they used Jackson Hayes the past 2 weeks or so for the Pelicans. Having him cut from the three-point line, have him working off ball to get open and get easy looks at the rim. He went 3 games without missing a 2 because he was getting high-quality looks at the rim. All of those actions that they ran would work with Zion Williamson as well. And they're going to work even better when you need to have a defender stuck to CJ McCollum out there on the perimeter. This is a move that's that they're hoping is going to pay dividends this season with his offense and exactly what the Pelicans need. And then a guy that also fits next to Zion Williamson next year when their expectations, their targets, their goals are going to be beyond the play-in tournament. That's why I think this is the right move, despite the age of CJ McCollum, despite probably 2. I don't know what the picks would be and the players that they gave up, but it's a significant amount. But CJ fits now, and he fits in the future with Zion, and I think that's what the team is really thinking about. So this is a good short-term and long-term move for the New Orleans Pelicans. David Griffin going and getting it done. And look, I think the last thing I want to say in this, and I sent this text to someone yesterday, or on Monday when I was talking to them about it, at a certain point, the Pelicans just needed to do something. They have not approached the results of their rebuild so far after the Anthony Davis trade has not been great. Part of it is some of the pressure that Zion Williamson has put on the team, making them feel a little bit more win now. They've also not done the best job of some of their drafts, some of the free agent moves, and some of the things that they've done. So it feels that there was a slight bit of desperation on this team. It's a poker player who is running out of chips, and at a certain point, you've got a hand, and you're pot committed, and you go all in. That's kind of what I feel this could be. It's a good move. It's a good enough hand to go forward with. Could there have been better moves a season from now? Maybe. But this is the hand that they were dealt. This is the hand they have to play, and this is what they feel is the best move. And CJ McCollum, with his three-point shooting, should help him this season, should help them next season. So if you want more about the Pelicans, Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, everything going on around this team, please subscribe to the Locked On Pelicans podcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. We're breaking it all down. Clearly, I had this news beforehand, and we got an emergency show right out here for you the second I could get this one live after the news broke. So I appreciate you all listening. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NolaJake on Twitter. And I'll see you over at the Locked On Pelicans podcast.